Hello, I'm Alison Hargreaves from guidesforbrides.co.uk, and as we're getting quite close to venues potentially being able to open up for weddings, we thought it would be helpful just to have a look at how venues make the decision on when the right time to open up might be, and also the sort of things you need to be thinking about in making that decision and getting the venue ready for couples to be coming in. So what we are seeing is the overriding reason for opening what many people will consider as being early, so at the first opportunity, is all about consumer confidence, and you really can't underestimate that at the moment. We have already had way too many postponements and cancellations, and I know venues with weddings later on this year are wanting to stop that from happening. And the best thing you can be doing is to show that you're open for business. Even if you have no intention of carrying out weddings, obviously the registrars have not been given the green light to go ahead to even do face-to-face appointments for couples to give notice of marriage yet. Churches are giving no indication that they're going to be carrying out weddings in the foreseeable future. But just being able to say that you are open, you're ready, and that when the time is right, you'll be able to hold those weddings is going to give your couples with weddings later on in the year so much confidence. We're needing to be really aware of additional postponements and cancellations, and really important to just be aware of frustrated contracts and what that might entail. So this is particularly going to be where couples just feel that the wedding cannot go ahead. So again, another reason to give them that confidence as early as you can. But it's also going to be where there are limitations from the point of view of perhaps regional closures or limits on numbers, or possibly the fact that the actual wedding part of the wedding can't go ahead, so that the registrar can't come to your venue to carry out the actual wedding. So fundamentally, the contract that you had entered into just isn't the contract that it started off as. We will be looking into that in much more detail over the next week or two. We'll be doing a detailed session on that and looking at doing a webinar and bringing out further information on that. In the meantime, for those that are getting ready for opening, getting your venue COVID secure when we have so little information from the government can feel quite daunting. We're hoping there may be more information, but when you look at all of the other industries that have been opening, they really have been left as an industry to figure it out for themselves. And that's perhaps the best way for the government to be approaching it. You know your venue better than anyone else, so you are better placed to make sure that it is as safe and secure as it can possibly be. I would really encourage you taking just a very simple approach, doing two things you are already doing. So look at risk assessments and look at customer care. You already do risk assessments for everything else you do in your venue. This is just another risk. So yes, it is a serious risk, and there is you're going to want to get it right, but just in exactly the same way that you go, right, there's a risk of fire, what do we do to reduce the risk of the fire and to minimize the harm to anyone if that was to happen? Exactly the same with COVID. So look at it in exactly the same way. The other thing to look at, people are saying, well, how much do I need to do? And this is where you should look at customer care as being the guidance on how you approach this. The government will tell you what the absolute minimum is you need to do to be COVID secure. And just in exactly the same way that the CMA, for example, the Office of used to be known as the Office of Fair Trading, will say this is and isn't acceptable. That doesn't mean that is the standard that you go for. And the higher your standards and the more COVID security you can bring in, the more your customers will trust you, the more they'll want to come to you. And so that is the way you should approach it. Just look at what is easy for you to do, what is financially viable, everything that's easy and inexpensive, do it. It will give that added confidence. Have a look at the things that are going to be too difficult and make sure you're still legally compliant if you don't do them. So hopefully that just gives a little bit of help. We have given a lot more detail on the sort of things that we know venues are doing, and hopefully that will give you some ideas of the sort of things you should be looking at and should be considering while we wait for further government guidance to come out. One of the things that we will be able to help you with is track and trace. So we are expecting that to either be required in some situations, or more likely it will just be one of those extra things you can be giving to give your clients that added comfort. It will also help from your risk assessment point of view. So for you knowing that the suppliers that are coming into your business don't have symptoms and shouldn't be self-isolating, and exactly the same from the point of view of the guests. So that is already developed, it's ready for you. We'll be sending out details as venues start to open about how you use it. This is going to be there, it's a free option for all of our clients to use. So hopefully that will solve that problem for you. We will be doing a lot on consumer advice, so speaking to consumer advice experts over the next week or two. The wedding industry, and it is wedding venues in particular, have got the second highest number of complaints logged with the CMA right the way across the UK, second only to the travel industry. It is something that we are actively working to try and help to make sure that it stays within the industry, that the press don't have a field day at the expense of any of our venues. So we're working very, very actively both with the CMA and with a significant customer advice influencer. So we are expecting to be doing some webinars with Q&As. We've already explored all of the possible issues that are going to be coming up, far more complex than the initial postponement, cancellation issues, and things that nobody really has the answers to. So just finding a way forward for venues and couples to make sure both are happy and feel protected. So more of that to come, and as ever, if there's anything at all that we can help with, feel free to email me, alison@guidesforbrides.co.uk, but otherwise we will keep going with these updates. It sounds like you're finding them useful, so thanks very much indeed.